pick and take Caleb Williams. So enjoy this podcast.
I'll record one on my own if that happens.
If that happens, you're going to see an arrest report for me. Pop, how you doing, man?
Weeks go by quickly, son.
Yeah, the weeks start to feel like days. Days start to feel like minutes. It's incredible. I mean, the weeks feel like minutes these days. It's just, the Ides of March just drag on. But anyways, Pop, here we are. I don't think anything I just said makes any amount of sense. But we're back at it.
Wouldn't be
back
the first
at it
time.
Again. Hey, man, look, I talk route concepts and protection schemes. I don't talk all that nonsense. Anyways, let's get into it. Doing a little buy or sell this week.
It's back by popular demand. Like, full disclosure, we are recording this. We're kind of pre-recording this pod. Dominic's got some vacation plans that we're working around. So,
yep.
But I think it'll be a relevant topic, and we're gonna have fun chopping it up here.
Yeah. Hey, knowing our luck, the Commanders just traded to get the number 1 overall pick and take Caleb Williams. So enjoy this podcast.
I'll record one on my own if that happens.
If that happens, you're going to see an arrest report for me. There's some serious public indecency concerns related to that one. I would go streaking. But anyways, let's get into it. Pop, hit the buy or sell. You guys know how it goes. Pop asks me the question. I tell you if I'm buying or selling, and then Pop will tell you how he's feeling.
Yeah, a little different spin on this one because Dominic doesn't know what the questions are.
Nope.
So I'm going to hit him with these questions blind and then see what his reaction is, and then I can also comment on my thoughts on it.
And that's a different spin because generally I'm up all night for days at a time coming up with my takes for this podcast. So I'm coming unprepared, so there might be a little drop off here.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I don't
Pop.
think so. So some of these are a little more obvious than others, but are you buying or selling that Chicago's sticking to number 1 and picking Caleb Williams?
Buying. That's done. Next
That's
question.
just so we can put the headline in there. Will Caleb Williams go to Chicago at number 1?
Always thinking about the clicks. I love that. Next question.
Yeah, I'm buying that one as well. I think it seems to be a pretty much a foregone conclusion. Would love it if we could figure out a way to sneak in there, but at this point, it just doesn't seem like to be in the card. So now a lot of buzz out there now about the Commanders trading back. So are you buying or selling a trade back by the Commanders? And then I have a trade offer as part 2 of this question for you. Are you buying or selling the Commanders trading back?
Sell. Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. Don't want it to happen either. So it's a double sell for me.
Yeah, I think with Jaden Daniels staring down at you at number 2 and perhaps Drake May, I just don't see how you can do it. It would really have to be a king's ransom, and you'd really have to be sold on on that maybe 3rd or 4th quarterback in the draft because they have to get a quarterback.
Yeah,
can't go into the season with my boy Marcus Mariota there, so it can't happen. But one of the what ifs that was out there, I don't think it's an actual news story, but one of the what ifs that out there is, what if the Vikings came at you with picks number 11, 23, and 108 in the draft to trade up for number 2? What would you do then? Would you take it or leave it? 11, 23, and 108. Which actually is I think 108's in the 4th round.
J.J. McCarthy ain't that bad, is he? If you feel like you can get McCarthy,
I don't think he's going to be available at 11.
That's the problem. Is like, do you take that trade out and then do you try and flip that trade out to go back up to number 4? Like, it just no. Just make it easy. Just take Jaden Daniels and go home.
Yeah, I think the only way that I could. I mean, from where I sit, and know what these guys knows as evaluators. It's more and more for me that Jaden Daniels is the guy that I want, and I don't know. Like even trading back one or two picks, then you give up the guy that you really really want at the most important position, and you've already got a bunch of picks as we're going to get into here in a little bit. So I don't know. It would take a lot. It would take a lot because you're really just sacrificing another year, and you know, landing that quarterback of the future in your very first year in a regime is such a luxury to have if you can do it. And I just think you
Yeah.
got to take a swing at it. You just have to. So I
Yep.
think we agree on that. Now this
Yeah. I
one I
mean,
know.
if you had a better answer at quarterback than Marcus Mariota, I mean, if you kept Howell around, maybe, but I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. Anyways, go ahead.
So there's more and more noise about this one. I know this one's going to touch you, right? But are you buying or selling J.J. McCarthy passing Drake May in the quarterback draft rankings? That he's actually the third best quarterback in this draft. A lot of people starting to say that now. Buying or selling that?
I like McCarthy. I don't know if I like him that much. Um, I sell. I'm gonna sell it. I like May too much, but it's not. It's close.
I think that the problem with McCarthy, and I was listening to one of the local shows, and they were actually making some really good points there because people were making a big deal about the Commanders having dinner with McCarthy, and by the time this pod comes out, they're gonna more likely have gone to all the pro days and spent time with all the top quarterbacks. But the problem with McCarthy is he could be a really good player. He's got some decent size. He's got some decent athletic ability, but you just didn't see it. Michigan was such a run-based team, and he threw the ball so little compared to these other guys that you just don't know. There's a lot more question marks or mystery around McCarthy for me, as compared to these other guys, and that's the thing I struggle with there. But he could turn into, a certain QB goat came from that same school and was picked in the
Yeah,
later rounds. And it was a similar situation. If you look back at Tom Brady's history, not that I'm comparing it to in any way, it was a similar experience in college. He was a good player, solid player, but team that was built more on running and defense. So you never know. You never know with that. But I'm with you. I think I'd stick with Drake May at the moment. So
yeah. I'm
last
in with May.
so last buy or sell question. Another one that might be obvious in a way. But draft is today. Magically, we've just landed in the draft. It's today. We're on the board. Are you
All
buying
prayers
all
have
the
been answered.
talk? Are you buying all the talk that is Jaden Daniels now at number 2 for the Commanders? Is a lock. Jaden's the guy.
It's the tough one because it's pre-recorded, right? So you don't know in the next week. But yeah, buying for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely buying that at this point. I think it's just the signs are starting to point that way more and more. It's a hesitant buy, but I think if the boy Daniel Jeremiah says if he finally flips, then I'm locked. That's the only last thing I'm waiting on is like DJ. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty. I just don't see what there's not to like at this point about Jaden Daniels, and I think we touched on it in the last pod. But just that archetype of quarterback is the type of guy that can come in and excite a fan base, excite a bad team, get you competitive, get you juiced. Again, we saw what RG3 did, and that team was awful that RG3 took over. Um, I'm ready. I'm ready to be hurt again. Do it. Bye, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I think it's a different situation. I don't. Yeah, they're both. I mean, it's interesting in that they're both Heisman Trophy winners, and they both have that dynamic speed where they can do things with their legs. I think Jaden's much more accomplished as a passer than RG3
Yeah.
was coming out of school, or maybe than like a Lamar was coming out of school. But it's just that potential, You know, the ability to do it with his legs and do it with his arm. And I do think the confidence of this coaching staff to utilize him the right way, to not put the weight of the world on his shoulders, as we saw maybe last year, happen with our previous QB1. I think that they're going to coach him up in a way that makes things, puts less pressure on him to have to, make plays, and then just builds on it, builds on him becoming more of that traditional pocket quarterback, but also being able to use his legs. The knock on him, of course, is the fact that he's smaller in size. He does seem to take some big hits, so that's the worry. But yeah, more and more, we'll see. Like you said, what happens as we progress forward. But more and more, I'm feeling like that's the guy.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, it just seems like that's where we're headed. So, is that it for buy or sell, Pop? Did we just steamroll that segment, man?
We steamrolled it. That's it.
Let's go.
That's all I came up with. That's all I came up with.
Let's go. Is it time for 15 to 25?
15 to 25. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
You guys, the real listeners will get it. Most of you won't, but real listeners will get it. Go ahead, Pop. So let's kick off this next segment. So now we've talked kind of buy or sell, right? So now we're going to talk about, we're not going to do full-on mock draft. We're not, sorry, I know a lot of you guys are going crazy on Twitter with you've been doing it since November of last year. You've been doing your mock drafts, but we're not quite there yet. But
we give you the mock draft the week before the draft. That's what we do. We're preparing. We're in the lab. We're watching tape. We're not ready to come out with it yet. What's the reason? We're like Adam Peters. We're not divulging our secrets.
No, we play close.
Give you the mock draft when it's time for the draft.
We're playing it close to the jacket, but let's get into this. So, how should we use our top 6 picks? That's basically the segment here. We're going to talk about mostly position groups. If you've got names ready and you want to shout them out, go ahead. I'll tell you, I don't have that many.
No.
But we've got round 1, pick number 2, round 2, 35, round 2 again, pick number 40, round 3, pick 66, and round 3, pick number 100. What do you want to do with these picks, Pop? I mean, we are rich in draft picks. So I think round number 1, Jaden Daniels, quarterback, maybe Drake May, but probably Jaden Daniels. I think we don't need to talk anymore about that. Am I right?
Right.
Cool. So now we get into round 2. You've got.
Hold on a second though. That doesn't add up to 6. I think I'm missing the pick we picked up for Sam.
I think that is pick 100.
No, that was the pick we picked up for.
Is it 78?
I did my same thing where I picked up an old article.
Sorry, as if the boy doesn't have enough editing.
There was a lot going on. It's number 78 from Seattle. So we're missing 78 from Seattle.
Look at the pull from the boy. I'm not editing that out just for that.
We caught it. So
keep it. All right. So again, we'll get to that when we get to round 3. Right now, round 2, 35-40. What do you want to do, Pop? What do you like there?
Obviously, I think we're both. We've already tipped our hand, right? We're both going quarterback at number 2, right? Yep. So what I want to do next is I want to package one of our seconds. I'll call it number 35, and one of our thirds. Let me call it number 78. So I'm going to burn those 2 picks to move up into the first round and pick an offensive tackle in the first round. That's what I want.
There it is.
And if it ends up being 35 and 66, so be it. I'm trying to be optimistic here. But I want to take one of our seconds, one of our thirds, package them together, move up later in the first round, and go after offensive tackle.
I would like to get even more aggressive than you. I would like to package up 35 and 40. And if we got to give him something from next year, give him something from next year. And I would like to get either Alt or Fashanu, one of those 2 guys, and go get a stud. Go get a stud.
You're just going to have to get up. You're going to have to get up really high in the draft to do that, though, right?
If you're going to go get a tackle, go get the tackle. That's my thing. Don't go get
Yeah.
the number 3 or 4 guy on your board. Go get the
I
guy.
mean, it makes a lot
You
of
want to
sense.
spend assets and do it. Go do it.
It makes a lot of sense, right? Because to pair that quarterback with an offensive tackle that he can play with, if our prayers are finally answered for the next 10 years,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty amazing if you could pull that off. And if, Magic
If
Johnson is sprinkling his magic dust on this team, for something
yeah,
like that to happen would be pretty amazing. I wouldn't hate that at all. Wouldn't hate
it
that at all.
feels it feels a little Madden franchise mode to me. Like it just feels a little too good to be true. But let's say we stick there,
But
right?
not, but think about it. If you go those 2 picks and the second from next year to move up, one, I think that's pretty good trade capital for the team that's trading with you.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think it's worth it. Go get that offensive tackle. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Should we stay? You're definitely going tackle with one of those 2 picks. Are you going tackle cornerback, tackle tight end, tackle edge rusher?
Well, we're not.
Where's
We
the
already said you got to stick with your
All
thoughts.
right.
I've
So we're
burned my
taking
2 picks. You've burned number 35 and 40. I've burned 35 and 78.
yeah.
Let's stick with that. So now we've got, what would that be? Now we've used 3 of them. We got 3 to go. What do
Pop's
we
got a
want to do
hot
with those remaining 3 picks?
Pop's got a hot date, man, blazing through this thing. Let's keep it moving. I like it. 35 and 40 off the board. Not necessarily what I would have done had I known this how we're doing this, but it's
Hot
cool.
date with my
Right?
beautiful wife, to have dinner with my beautiful wife. Let's just be clear,
Of
in case she's
course, man.
listening.
River Hill Grill about to get torn up. Let's get into it. Round 3, pick number 66. You got pick 78. You got pick 100. Where are you looking to attack here in this round, Pop?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at positions of need, and we've addressed offensive line, offensive tackle, I think they've got to get a cornerback. And I
Yeah.
think, I'm hoping that we at least keep that one of those second round picks. I think I go corner there. And you had said it very well in our last podcast. You get a starter, right? You could get a starter, and corners kind of tend to come off the board, early at times. But I think if I could get cornerback and maybe a guy that can get in there and contribute, because it's such a position of need at this time. So I think I got to go corner as my next priority there.
Yeah, I'm going probably tight end and corner with those. And we have 3 picks, so tight end, corner, best player available would be my move. And I don't mind if you want to go safety.
Nah, I can't have best player available in this sequence. I need a position.
Well,
tight end, corner, and who would you go with?
I'm saying best player available just because the roster's in such a position that, like, if there's a wide receiver you love there, take a wide receiver. If there's another tackle you love there, take another tackle. If there's a guard you love there, go guard. If there's an edge rusher you love there, go edge rusher. Like, I think once you get from the top 3 positions,
but who would you want that? What position would you want that best player available to be in? So let's just say you said tight end, you said corner, you got one more to burn. Who would you want that to be?
Kind of don't care. Wide receiver?
Yeah.
Get a wide out. We need a little help at wide out. See if there's a great slot receiver on the board there.
Yeah, for me, that's where I'd like to be. I think a little bit of leading the witness there, but I'd like, with those 3 picks left, I said cornerback already. I'd like, I'm kind of torn between tight end and receiver. I think I would almost go with best player available between those 2 positions at that point. And if you get a receiver that you really, really like, I'm good with it. But yeah, I think wide receiver and tight end would be my next 2 choices. And you could flip the order based on the player you like the best out of those positions, I think.
There you go. So, all right, now we're at the end of the segment. We've covered the format. Pop, I want to spin this one back on you. I'm sorry. I can't let this go. We keep picks 35 and 40. Do you want to get a pair of tackles? Do you want to go tackle tight end? What do you want to do there if we keep those 2 picks? I think if we kept
those, I think if we kept those 2 picks, I would, and now I'm dealing with 4 instead of 3. I'd use one of them on a tackle and one of them on an offensive lineman, and that could be best player available again, whether it's guard or tackle. But I would continue to invest in their line. Although edge, we haven't talked about edge. Maybe edge is something we need to be thinking about here. What do you think?
So that's where I'm at. I would
Right.
go tackle corner.
I think I'd go tackle edge. Yeah.
I go tackle corner and then edge in the third round and swap the corner out. Tackle corner edge. Because I think in that order, those are the three most important positions in football other than quarterback. Personally.
So if you go tackle corner edge, we still got two more to burn. Tackle corner edge.
Round 3, tight end, wide receiver.
Okay. I'm with you there.
That's where I'm at. And I think
I'm with you there.
Most likely will happen. I also don't think going 35-40 tackle is out of the question. If you got two guys you like, F it. You need two tackles. The only guy you have in the building is Cornelius Lucas. Get both of them. Let one of them bench, one of them plays. Like I'm not against tackle there. But I think that's about it for that.
I got a question for you since we got a little bit of time here. I got a question for you. All right. So I want to get our quarterback talk in, right? We haven't talked too much about it. We said we think, we haven't really named who we think that pick should be at number 2, right? So now draft, I think it's Daniels. We've been a little bit more on the fence between Daniels and May. That's okay. We could save that for the mock draft.
Sure.
But what's your position on playing or sitting this number 2 pick in the draft in year 1? Because there's more buzz out there about sitting this player and letting him learn behind number 0 on your program, number 1 in your hearts, Marcus Mariota, who I love so much.
Yeah, what's your position in your heart too?
What's your position on whether we should play or sit this rookie QB in year 1?
Play him. F it. If it's Daniels, you play him. If it's May or McCarthy, maybe you think about sitting him. I think May, maybe you definitely. If it's Daniels, you play him. If it's May, plan to sit him. If it's McCarthy, see where he's at. And then maybe you play him. Maybe you sit him. Could be 50-50 on that. And then if it's Penix or Nix, play him. Whatever. If we shock the world. But
I think we're just in a position. I personally, and everyone's got a right to their opinion for sure. And I know that developing this quarterback for year 2, 3, 4, 5 is probably the most important thing we can do.
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing the upside, not playing them right and developing them. What this season isn't so much about wins and losses. And I know you talk about, you don't want to ruin the kid. And maybe we're all feeling some scars from last year with Sam. One, as much as I've argued in Sam's favor, we've said all along that was a bit of a Hail Mary on Ron Rivera's part, right? It was a 5th round pick. We're not talking about the number
for a year. He sat for a year and still got ruined.
We're not talking about the number 2 pick in the draft. Now, he's a guy that was buried on the depth chart. I don't think they had any thought of him being the guy until he accidentally ended up playing in that last game, right? And then all of a sudden, wow. What did Ron say? F. If I knew the kid was that good. Oh my gosh. Reliving the horrors. But, I think this could be different in the sense of if you coach him up right and you rely on that running game and, and you break it down into, credit to Dan Jeremiah. I've used this one before in previous pods, but you break it up into thirds. You got your run game taking 50% of the snaps in the game, right? Or if you're staying pretty balanced, or maybe it's 40%. You give them some layups. You give him some screen passes. You give him some easy throws. You give him some rollouts. You let him use his legs. And then you limit the amount of times he's in that drop back game and you're putting that pressure on him. And what that also does is it keeps the defense back on their heels. So when he's dropping back, he's not under the level of pressure or duress. And you know what? You stick to that. Even if it's not completely working. even if there's stuff in the run, you just don't put him in harm's way and maybe continue to focus on beefing up that defense, letting that defense keep you in games and being competitive. If it's about developing the quarterback, not so much about wins and losses this year, and hopefully on your way to developing the quarterback, you get some wins racked up on the board. I think that for me, play him.
Yeah,
Play him.
I agree. I agree. I play him right off the bat. Let the boy eat. Do the good stuff. Especially, and that's why I kind of broke it down into like Daniels, you definitely play because with the RPO, with the legs, you have more options in terms of taking more things off of his plate and letting him grow slowly. So you're able to play him right away and also let him develop as if he was sitting and start working more complicated things into the playbook later on in the year. So that Daniels, without a doubt, play him. When you get into May and McCarthy, you look at May, who's a guy that might not be ready tomorrow, but has elite talent. He has it all. You just don't know how ready he is or how much access he has to that talent. So that's one where I don't hate if you sit him for a year because, like you said, we're not planning on competing this year anyways. So if you look at the kid and you go, look, he's raw, but he's unbelievable. I mean, the plan was not to start Justin Herbert, right? Justin Herbert got thrown in, and that team still stunk no matter how good Herbert was that year. He got thrown into the fire. That was not the plan. So if you didn't think that guy was ready, is
He
May
came
ready?
out of it all right. He came out of it all right.
Yeah, he came out of it amazing. But is
Yeah.
May? What I'm saying is, if the plan was not to start Herbert and Herbert wasn't ready, is May ready? And barring a needle puncturing Marcus Mariota's lung, does May get that year, and then does May hit the ground running with a team a little more ready to compete in a year? Who knows? And McCarthy, I just am so back and forth on him. I know he ran a more pro-style offense in Michigan, but can he adapt, and is he ready to come run that offense in the NFL? I don't know. So, and if you trade back, you figure maybe you got some more assets to surround him with. So maybe you're really not planning on winning this year. So then sit him. Why not? I don't know. There's a lot. It's a great question.
Again, stating the obvious, right? It's hard to make an argument for picking May over Daniels if your argument is sit May for a year, play Daniels right away. Because I think it'd be hard for me to say the upside of May is greater than the upside of Daniels. Like I think, we don't know. I mean, that's the reality, right? We don't know how good these guys are going to be or not going to be. We really just don't. We're not going to know until they're out there. We get excited by, the potential of the excitement of somebody like a Daniels kind of intoxicates you a bit, right?
Yeah.
But I think I just think it's different this year because it's not just Kingsbury, it's Lynn, it's Johnson, it's Tavita Pritchard. There's just there's a group there that I think it's also Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn's going to set a tone and use that experience that he has that say, look, let's take the pressure off this young man. Let's make sure we've got a balanced attack and make things as easy as we can on him. And I think that's going to be the case. And I if it's Drake May, if they convince themselves Drake May is a better pick, play him. That's just my opinion. Get him out there. Again, coach him up, take the pressure on him, let him build game by game, week by week. And I have confidence in this coaching staff to be able to do that.
Yeah, fair enough. I like that. I think I'm with you on that, all things considered. And yeah, man, it's going to be really interesting. I think the more and more we talk about this, I'm starting to feel like Daniels is the right move here at number 2. And I think if you read the tea leaves in terms of the way they've done their free agency signings and things of that nature, a lot of 1-year deals, a lot of 2-year deals, they're signing guys, in my opinion, as if they're ready to go play number 2 and to be in position where, hey, if we land a CJ Stroud, now we have a ton of cap space next year, and we're going to be a really attractive destination for people. So we're going to spend out our nose and load up on some studs next year. They're kind of putting themselves in that position where it's like we got to know and see what we have going into next year's offseason.
And there's an argument, like if you look at it for the future, right? Not that you want next year to be a tank, and I don't think that they're building the roster that way. I think they're building a very competitive roster. was what I'm seeing. I don't think you bring those vets in to tank. They wouldn't want to be
Yeah.
here. If we were holding on it. But I think it's another argument for developing that quarterback, because what's the worst thing that happens in the world? You end up being a 5 or 6 win team with a developing quarterback that you're seeing signs of improvement on. And then now you
Yeah.
can go draft a stud wide receiver or, dynamic playmaker with that, sixth or seventh pick in the draft, right? Or fifth or sixth pick in the draft. That's almost like a worst case scenario, kind of best case scenario that comes out of it. And as far as all those 1 year deals, it's a great point by you, a little bit different subject. I think you've got a bunch of guys on prove it deals, right? And maybe
Yeah.
only keep half those guys. Maybe only keep a third of those guys. Maybe only end up re-signing 2 or 3 of them. But it fits what Adam Peters said about wanting to build through the draft, right? Because he's
Yep.
just creating that flexibility. And I think what he's doing, you'll see us for the next few years have a lot of salary cap space to be able to re-sign our own guys as we go
Yeah.
forward. So
100%. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff here, a lot of factors at play, but all in all, I say we wrap this thing up, Pop. I think we leave this one a little bit more on the concise side, let the people know our opinions, and guys, we're looking forward to getting back at it. Once you hear from us next time, it's going to be pretty close to draft season. It's going to be
amp it up.
wheels up. It's going to be time to get after it. So I cannot wait. I don't know about you. And without further ado, let's wrap this thing up, Pop. I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, everybody.